Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be part two for section 9.5. This will be just finding A, B, and C. This section should be relatively easy. You can see on my screen for you guys, I actually am just going to use a worksheet and go through, because really I'm just going over how to do the formula. I'm not going to get too in depth. So this is more of a process-based learning section. As you go through it, you can see I've already attached this onto your Schoology page. And as you see, I have some of the answers down at the bottom. So if you want to use this for reference for yourself, go ahead. I'm just going to go through a couple problems on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is how to find A, B, and C. So you can see the first problem is m squared minus 5m minus 14 equals 0. So before we can use the quadratic formula, we have to make sure it's in standard form. And we want to identify the A, the B, and the C components or the variables in this section. So now let's just start looking at it. Here was the problem. The easiest way to do it, you can write it right underneath if you want. We know standard form is A. Remember, M is just like X. It doesn't matter what variable we're using here. So A, I'll write M squared just to keep it consistent, plus BM plus C equals 0. So as I go through on this side, I'm just going to go A equals, B equals, C equals. And now all you have to do is circle. So you look at where the A is. Well, hopefully remember the coefficient of anything is always an invisible 1. So we know A equals 1. Then we look here. B has to be negative 5. And then we go here. C is negative 14. And that's really I think the first 2 or 3 questions of your homework is going to be is just identifying A, B, and C. Now, this is obviously the easiest way to do it. So let me go and find a little bit harder of a problem as I scroll down. So you see when these are all lined up easily, they're easy to see because they're all set equal to 0. Let me go down here to a harder one. It'll look like what I did in the previous one. This looks a lot like what I did in the previous one. So let's just first look at 16 and then I'll go back to 15. Okay, just because 16 looks a little bit more difficult. I apologize for losing you there for a second. Okay, so if I'm going to look at 16, which says 9n squared equals 4 plus 7n. And now, if we need to go through that, I need it all on one side. So you have to make the choice what side you want to clear out. I always clear out the side that has the smaller n squared. So I'm going to subtract 4 from each side and subtract 7n. Minus 4 minus 7n. Okay. Well, remember, you can only add or subtract like terms. So as I'm doing this, 9n squared is the only n squared, so it drops down. Now I want to go in descending order. Remember, standard order, we've been doing that for a couple months now. The negative 7n goes next, then the negative 4, and that's all going to equal 0. Okay? And so now we would have our A, our B, and our C. So remember, we have A, x squared, plus bx, plus c equals 0. That makes my A equal to 9. My B equal to negative 7. Sorry, for some reason this camera just doesn't want to stay focused. And my C equals negative 4. Okay? Now, the only other hiccups you might have is sometimes after you get everything on one side, you might be missing a B or a C term. Just remember, that makes it equal to 0. So let's say I had 4x squared plus 3x equals 0. Okay? So that means I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A would equal 4. B would equal 3. Notice there is nothing there for C. This isn't like a coefficient. If you have a coefficient that's empty, like if this, remember that last one we just had where the A was 1, here we don't have a term. So it must be C equals 0. Okay? And hopefully you remembered something from last section. If the middle term was missing, let's say I had